So welcome everybody. Welcome to another year of a wonderful gathering of friends in a beautiful setting. I want to shout out to the other Costellos here, Nick and Charlie, who have prepared these grounds today. Aren't they beautiful? So I also wanted to thank John Tavano, which was part of my script, but Cynthia has stolen that from me. So thank you again, John. And fill in when we need you. So, and it goes without saying that, yes, the other Costellos, but Cynthia has done such an unbelievable job again this year putting this together. And I think without Cynthia, we wouldn't have a lot of what goes on with the Whittier Home. So Cynthia, thank you very, very much. Make sure you look at the program. Make sure you look at why we all support the Whittier Home. Make sure you remember the mission and the vision statement and why it's important. All of you are here because you love Whittier and you know the importance of this to our community. But let's get started. We have a few readings today that I think gets us in the mood and the spirit. And I'd like to invite Elinor, Curtin, Cameron up, but before I do, I asked her for a bio, and I've got the greatest bio of all time here. She wrote it. She said, "My name is Curtin. I am not a shady character. But on a serious note, I am president of the Haverhill Whittier Club, the 127-year-old Whittier Fan Club, a subset of which, the trustees, oversees the Whittier birthplace." She goes on to say, "I taught English and drama at Haverhill High School for 33 years. And lately I have been doing some community theater just to prove I can." So I would like to invite Elinor up here. She is going to read for us Farewell of a Virginia Slaver Mother. And so let's give Elinor a very warm welcome.
When I was asked to provide a bio, I thought it would be excerpted and edited. I didn't think it would be used in its entirety. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I enjoyed being here last year, reading Ichabod. And today, knowing that we are dealing with Whittier the abolitionist, I chose a poem that deals with Whittier's involvement in the abolition movement, in trying to raise the awareness of the country to the terrible state of slavery and what it did to families and to individuals. And I think that his farewell of the farewell of a Virginia slave mother to her daughters sold into Southern bondage captures the essence of that tragedy completely. The farewell. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone, where the slave whip ceaseless swings, where the noisome insect stings, where the fever demon strews poison with the falling dews, where the sickly sunbeams glare through the hot and misty air. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. There no mother's eye is near them, there no mother's ear can hear them. Never, when the torturing lash seams their back with many a gash, shall a mother's kindness bless them, or a mother's arms caress them. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Gone, gone, sold and gone to the rice swamp, dank and lone. Oh, when weary, sad, and slow from the wheat fields at night they go, faint with toil and racked with pain, to their cheerless homes again. There no brother's voice shall greet them, there no father's welcome meet them. Gone, gone, sold and gone to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Gone, gone, sold and gone to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From the tree whose shadow lay on their childhood's place of play, from the cool spring where they drank, rock and hill and rivulet bank, from the solemn house of prayer and the holy councils there. Gone, gone, sold and gone to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone, toiling through the weary day, and at night the spoilers pray. Oh, that they had earlier died, sleeping calmly by my side, where the tyrant's power is over and the fetter galls no more. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. By the holy love he beareth, by the bruised reed he spareth. Oh, may he, to whom alone all their cruel wrongs are known, still their hope and refuge prove, with a more than mother's love. Gone, gone, sold and gone, to the rice swamp, dank and lone. From Virginia's hills and waters, woe is me, my stolen daughters. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Okay, we're going to improvise here a little bit, and I'm going to ask if Cynthia might come up here and read to us Maud Muller. Did I say that right? Do you really want to? Did you find it? All right, then get up here and read it.
Well, we also always have to have a little repartee, and I love a joke, and Charlie loves a joke. But Whittier wasn't a joke. Whittier, we always think of as the man who wrote Snowbound, the beautiful idyll, winter idyll of a family that was inside for a half a week because of the snowstorm. And that brought Whittier his fame, his real fame, and financial success. And that was wonderful. But Whittier was a rebel. He was an activist. He got stoned many times. People don't know that side of Whittier. And the poem that Elinor read of the farewell of the slave mother was such, he tried to use poetry to get people to go against slavery. But when the words didn't work, and when the words to that poem didn't work, he knew it was going to take more than words. And so with Garrison, they all decided, well, war was inevitable, even though he was a Quaker. But his lyric side we always have to present because he has that beauty. In 1855, he wrote this poem about Maud Muller. It's Everybody remembers the lines from this is, "For all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest of these, it might have been." And so let's hear why it might have been. Maud Muller on a summer's day raked the meadow sweet with hay. Beneath her torn hat glowed the wealth of simple beauty and rustic health. Singing, she wrought, and her merry glee the mock-bird echoed from his tree. But when she glanced to the far-off town, white from its hill slope looking down, the sweet song died, and a vague unrest and a nameless longing filled her breast. A wish that she hardly dared to own for something better than she had known. The judge rode slowly down the lane, smoothing his horse's chestnut mane. He drew his bridle in the shade of the apple trees to greet the maid and asked a draught from the spring that flowed through the meadow across the road. She stooped where the cool spring bubbled up and filled for him her small tin cup and blushed as she gave it, looking down on her feet so bare and her tattered gown. "Thanks," said the judge. "A sweeter draught from a fairer hand was never quaffed." He spoke of the grass and flowers and trees, of the singing birds and the humming bees. They talked of the haying and wondered whether the cloud in the west would bring foul weather. And Maud forgot her brier torn gown and her graceful ankles bare and brown, and listened with a pleased surprised look from her long-lashed hazel eyes. At last, like one who for delay seeks a vain excuse, he rode away. Maud Muller looked and sighed. "Ah me, that I the judge's bride might be. He would dress me up in silk so fine, and praise and toast me at his wine. My father should wear a broadcloth coat, my brother should sail a painted boat. I'd dress my mother so grand and gay, and the baby should have a new toy each day. And I'd feed the hungry and clothe the poor, and all should bless me who left our door." The judge looked back as he climbed the hill and saw Maud Muller standing still. "A form more fair, a face more sweet, ne'er hath it been my lot to meet, and her modest answer and graceful air show her wise and good as she is fair. Would she were mine, and I today like her a harvester of hay, no doubtful balance of rights and wrongs, nor weary lawyers with endless tongues, but low of cattle and song of birds, and health and quiet and loving words." But he thought of his sisters proud and cold, at his mother vain of her rank and gold. So closing his heart, the judge rode on, and Maud was left in the field alone. But the lawyer smiled that afternoon when he hummed in court an old love tune, and the young girl mused beside the well till the rain on the unraked clover fell. He wedded a wife of richest dower, who lived for fashion and he for power. Yet oft in his marble hearth's bright glow he watched a picture come and go, and sweet Maud Muller's hazel eyes looked out in their innocent surprise. Oft when the wine in his glass was red, he longed for the wayside well instead, and closed his eyes on his garnished rooms to dream of meadows and clover blooms. And the proud man sighed with a secret pain, "Ah, that I were free again. Free as when I rode that day where the barefoot maiden raked her hay. She wedded a man unlearned and poor, and many children played round her door. But care and sorrow and childbirth pain left their traces on heart and brain. And oft when the summer sun shone hot on the new-mown hay in the meadow lot, and she heard the little spring brook fall o'er the roadside through the wall. In the shade of the apple tree, again she saw a rider draw his rein. And gazing down with timid grace, she felt his pleased eyes read her face. Sometimes her narrow kitchen walls stretched away into stately halls. The weary wheel to a spinet turned, the tallow candle as astral burned. And for him who sat by the chimney lug, dozing and grumbling, o'er pipe and mug, a manly form at her side she saw, and joy was duty, and love was law. Then she took up her burden of life again, saying only, "It might have been." Alas for maiden, alas for judge, for rich repiner and household drudge. God pity them both, and pity us all, who vainly the dreams of youth recall. For all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these: "It might have been." Alas for maiden, alas for judge, for rich repiner and household drudge. God pity them both, and pity us all, who vainly the dreams of youth recall. For all of sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these: "It might have been." Ah well, for us all some sweet hope lies deeply buried from human eyes. And in the hereafter, angels may roll the stone from its grave away.
I recognize him now. Cynthia, that was wonderful. And I want to just go right now to the Congressman. Let me just tell you how thrilled I am personally that John Tierney is here. I think this personifies this guy that we've known and represented us since 1996, and hopefully will for another couple of years at least. I have a long bio here, but I am not going to burden any of you with it, other than to tell you that he has been a North Shore guy his whole life. He worked himself through school. He's owned his own business. He's been the president of a chamber of commerce, and he's been our great congressman and a good friend of the Costellos and a good friend to Amesbury and Newburyport for many, many years. So I also call him a very dear friend. So he is going to read for us, I'm told, Ichabod, and I cannot wait. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm welcome to our Congressman, John Tierney.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to read from a book that Cynthia was kind enough to let me borrow here, The Poetry of John Greenleaf Whittier, which is a reader's edition. But I think it's probably appropriate that we do a little bit of the book's own introduction and then something from the poet himself. The book says that Whittier's abolition poems are best known for their clear and infectious emotional animation. Such verses are meant to be shouted, but in Ichabod, the poet takes a different stance. Faced with the circumstances described in the preface, Whittier swelled with righteous indignation. He felt betrayed, but instead of responding with poetic fire, he wrote a poem that voices pity for Webster, comparing him with that Old Testament character whose name means, "Where is the glory?" Such a portrayal must have been more humiliating for Webster than the most profane attack. The tone of restraint and pity makes it one of Whittier's best and most bitter anti-slavery poems. And here's what the poet said about Ichabod. He said, "This poem was the outcome of the surprise and grief and forecast of evil consequences which I felt on reading the 7th of March speech of Daniel Webster in support of the compromise and the fugitive slave law. No partisan or personal enmity dictated it. On the contrary, my admiration of the splendid personality and intellectual power of the great senator was never stronger than when I laid down his speech and in one of the saddest moments of my life penned my protest. I saw as I wrote with painful clearness its sure results. The slave power, arrogant and defiant, strengthened and encouraged to carry out its scheme for the extension of its baleful system, or the dissolution of the Union, the guarantees of personal liberty in the free states broken down, and the whole country made the hunting ground of slave catchers. In the horror of such a vision, so soon fearfully fulfilled, if one spoke at all, he could only speak in tones of stern and sorrowful rebuke. But death softens all resentments, and the consciousness of the common inheritance of frailty and weakness modifies the severity of judgment. Years after, in The Lost Occasion, I gave utterance to an almost universal regret that the great statesman did not live to see the flag which he loved trampled under the feet of slavery, and in view of this desecration, make his last days glorious in defense of liberty and union, one and inseparable. So here's his poem. So fallen, so lost, the light withdrawn which once he wore, the glory from his gray hairs gone forevermore. Revile him not, the tempter hath a snare for all, and pitying tears, not scorn and wrath, befit this fall. O dumb be passion's stormy rage, when he who might have lighted up and led his age falls back in night. Scorn with the angel's laugh to mark a bright soul driven, fiend goaded down the endless dark from hope and heaven. Let not the land once proud of him insult him now, nor brand with deeper shame his dim, dishonored brow. But let its humbled sons instead from sea to lake a long lament as for the dead in sadness make. Of all we loved and honored, naught save power remains, a fallen angel's pride of thought still strong in chains. All else is gone. From those great eyes the soul has fled. When faith is lost, when honor dies, the man is dead. Then pay the reverence of old days to his dead fame, walk backward with averted gaze, and hide the shame. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Before we invite our special guest presenter up here, I just think it's important to also go back to the program and make sure you thank a lot of people here on the planning committee, the member volunteers, and the non-member volunteers. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this. And the silent auction items are important, that they get moved, so I don't have to buy them all. So at this time, I'd like to also invite somebody up here who I also call a good friend, somebody I've known for my whole life, a good friend of my dad's, graduate of Newport High School in 1938, and somebody that is older than Harriet Gould. Bill Plante is a legend. And not only in his own mind, he really, truly is a legend. Somebody that has been a true mover and shaker in our community, has made a difference. Last year, the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce honored his life's work of giving back to the community with the prestigious Ed Mullen Community Leadership Award. And I thought that it was one of those few moments that we really surprised this wonderful man. So today, Bill has been asked to come up and read Overheard. It's not a Whittier reading, it's of Rena S. Paillet. And without further ado, let's give a very, very warm welcome to everyone's dear friend, Bill Plante.
Thank you, I think. They get all my paraphernalia out here. I'm going to be here for a while. No one ever invites me anywhere and expects to be brief. So there was some question how long this should take, and I said I would try to do my best. A year ago, no, 5 years ago, we honored Garrison, that is we, the New England Newspaper Association, with the highest award that is available in New England. And it was a new classification because it dealt with issues that we didn't deal with the regular winning examination. We went into history and found out, we learned really a lot about Garrison. And in the learning of Garrison, I learned an awful lot about Whittier, but not as much, I think, as needs to be known. And before I'm done here, I'm going to ask some other of you who do know more about him to get into that, because if all goes well, we just had our nominations for the awards last Thursday, and I would like to submit Whittier's name a year from now. Well, God knows you all know more about Whittier than I do. But when I was asked to do this, I jumped at the opportunity because of what I've just said. I want to put you back into time. I want you to try to put yourself back into the early 19th century, because we tend to think of things in our own time. But the War of 1812 hadn't even begun when these two men were born. One was born in Amesbury, where I, by the way, started school. My mother was an Amesbury woman. He was born in Amesbury, and the other was born in Newburyport. The one in Newburyport was born 2 years before the one in Amesbury. The Amesbury one, as you know, was a farmer boy, farmer land, and so forth. The one in Newburyport had a far more complex beginning. His father was he was a seaman of rather untidy presence, and disappeared when he and his brothers and his sister were left with his mother, who was a very strong Baptist woman, very strong in the Baptist church. So both Whittier, from his faith, and Garrison had this kind of beginning. Garrison was farmed out to 2 or 3 places to learn a trade, and he learned printing. And he became a member of the old newspaper that was there at that time, the Newburyport Herald. Stayed there until he did his time and came out in 21, started a newspaper, and you all know the story about how Whittier's sister sent him poems that were unsigned, and Garrison printed them and became curious, and then found out that it was this boy up there in Haverhill, and he sought him out and found that he had some schooling but needed more. They were not rich people, they were living off the land, and so Garrison was put to work making women's shoes to get some money and to go back to school. Now think of that in terms of Whittier's poetry. My God, the man acquired an education that you would have a hard time matching today in the schools and the colleges and universities of higher knowledge. It is really remarkable when you listen to the language of his poetry, how complex it is in many areas and how simply wonderful it is in others. I like the light ones as much as the others. And I just consider that this is Whittier talking. Dogs, take it. Still the girls are out, said Muggins, bedward groping. 'Tis 12 o'clock or thereabout, and all the doors are open. I'll lock the doors another night and give to none admission. Better be abed and tight than sober at division. Next night at 10 o'clock, or more or less by Muggins' guess, he went to bolt the outside door, and lo, the key was missing. He muttered and scratched his head, and quick he came to this decision. Here's something new in arithmetic, subtraction by division. And then, said he, it puzzles me puzzles me. I cannot get the right on it. Why temperance talk and whiskey spree alike should make a night on it. Do you give it up? In Muggin's voice was something like derision. It's just because between the boys and girls, there's no division. Well, that's the light side of him, and there's so much of the light side of him. This man had all kinds of dimensions. He was not. He was less, I think, healthy than Garrison. Garrison had his problems physically, but not so much as Whittier did. Whittier had breakdowns. He had a nervous breakdown when he was in his early 20s, recovered from that, and over the years he had these problems back and forth. But they became friends on a basis of they coming together on the poetry thing, and were good friends up to a point. And the point, I think most of you who know Whittier's history broke off with Garrison. And it was because Whittier's view was simply the business of the blacks and the problems of making them free. Whittier, of course, was on that same course with him, side by side. But they differed as far as strategies were concerned, because Whittier went broader than that to women's rights and so forth and so on. And Garrison was very worried that the momentum that had been yearned with so much difficulty over the years was going to weaken because of the broader political understandings. No question about Garrison, he was a firebrand. And his speeches and his own writing and his own poetry, he had some poetry. I like to think of Garrison as someone to whom poetry was a nice thing to do when you thought about it, and it was the other way around with Whittier. I have a couple of poems here that I do want to talk about Whittier to show you his variety. There's one that particularly struck me, and I'm not going to read the whole poem because it's too long. But it's called it Port Royal. And it's about, it's about blacks, the blacks themselves. And I'll only read a couple of paragraphs, a couple of stanzas here, and then I'm going to shift to the boatmen themselves. The tent lights glimmer on the land, the ship lights on the sea. The night wind smooths with drifting sand our track on lone Tybee. At last, our grating keels outslide, our good boats forward swing. And while we rode the landlocked tide, our Negroes row and sing. And this is the song. And this became a very popular song in its time. It was sung just about everywhere, apparently, by whites as well as blacks. It's a song of the Negro boatman. Oh, praise and thanks the Lord become to set the people free. And massa think it day of doom, and we of jubilee. The Lord that heaped the Red Sea waves, he just as strong as then. He said a word, we're last night's slaves, today the Lord's free men. The yam will grow, the cotton blow, we'll have the rice and corn. Oh, never you fear, if never you hear the driver blow his horn. Oh, massa, on the travels gone, he's leafy the land behind, the Lord breath blow him further on, like corn shock in the wind. We own the do-ho-ho, we own the plow, we own the hands that hold, we sell the pig, we sell the cow, but never child be sold. The yam will grow, the yam will grow, the cotton blow, we'll have the rice and corn. Oh, never you fear, if never you hear the driver blow his horn. We pray the Lord, he give the signs that someday we be free. The north wind tell it to the pines, the wild duck to the sea. We think it when the church bell ring. We dream it on the dream. We rice bird mean it when he sing, the eagle when he screams. The yam will grow, the cotton blow. We'll have the rice and corn. Oh, never you fear if never you hear the driver blow his horn. We know the promise never fall and never lie the word. So like the apostles in the jail, we waited for the Lord, and now he opened every door and throw away the key. He think we job him so before, we love him so before. The animal, I'm sorry, let me try that again. He think we think we love him so before, we love him better free. The yam will grow, the cotton blow, he'll give the rice and corn. Oh, never you fear if never you hear the driver blow his horn. And so he concludes that with this. So sing our dusky gondoliers, and with a secret pain and smiles that seem akin to tears, we hear the wild refrain. We dare not share the Negro's trust, nor yet his hope deny. We only know that God is just, and every wrong shall die. The split between Garrison and our poet friend Whittier lasted most of their lives. And they came together after the ruckus was over, really, and were quite friendly once again. The results had been better, I think, than either expected, and they were old men now. Garrison would die before Whittier, and I think actually Whittier made more of the motion to mend the scars than actually Garrison did. I can't find much from Garrison in response, but I do want to read you what was sent to Whittier, was sent by Whittier to Garrison in a wonderful letter to the American Anti-Slavery Society anniversary. It was an anniversaries thing, and it was dated from Amesbury, 24th of the 11th month of November, 1863. My dear friend, I have received thy kind letter. This is from Whittier to Garrison. I have received thy kind letter, so there was one, with the accompanying circular inviting me to attend the commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the formation of the American Anti-Slavery Society of Philadelphia. It is with the deepest regret that I am compelled by the feeble state of my health to give up all hope of meeting thee and my other old and dear friends on an occasion of so much interest. How much it costs me to acquiesce in the hard necessity thy own feelings will tell thee better than any words of mine. I look back over 30 years and call to mind all the circumstances of my journey to Philadelphia in company with thyself and the excellent Dr. Thurston of Maine, even then as we thought an old man, but still living and true as ever to the good cause. I recall the early gray morning when, with Samuel J. May, our colleague on the Commerce, to prepare the Declaration of Sentiments for the convention, I climbed to the small upper chamber of a colored friend to hear thee read the first draft of a paper which will live as long as our national history. I see the members of the convention, solemnized by the responsibility, rise one by one and solemnly affix their names to that stern pledge of fidelity to freedom. Of the signers, many have passed away from earth, a few have faltered and turned back, but I believe the majority still live to rejoice over the great triumph of truth and justice, and to devote what remains of time and strength to the cause to which they consecrated their youth and manhood 30 years ago. For while we may well thank God and congratulate one another on the prospect of the speedy emancipation of the slaves of the United States, we must not for a moment forget that from this hour new and mighty responsibilities devolve upon us to aid, direct, and educate these millions who are left free, indeed, but bewildered, ignorant, naked, and foodless, in the wild chaos of the Civil War. We have to undo the accumulated wrongs of 2 centuries to remake the manhood which slavery has well-nigh unmade, to see to it that the long-oppressed colored man has a fair field for development and strongest external support and improvement, and to tread under our feet the last vestige of that hateful prejudice which has been the strongest external support of Southern slavery. We must lift ourselves at once to the true Christian attitude where all distinctions of black and white are overlooked in the heartfelt recognition of brotherhood of man. I must not close this letter without confessing that I cannot sufficiently be thankful to the divine providence which, in a great measure, through thy instrumentality, turned me away so early from what Roger Williams calls the world's great trinity, pleasure, profit, and honor, to take side with the poor and the oppressed. I am not insensible to literary reputation. I love perhaps too well the praise and goodwill of my fellow men, but I set a higher value on my name as appended to the Anti-Slavery Declaration of 1833 than on the title page of any book. Looking over a life marked by many errors and shortcomings, I rejoice that I have been able to maintain the pledge of that signature, and that in the long intervening years. My voice, though not the loudest, has been heard wherever freedom raised her cry of pain. Let me, through thee, extend a warm greeting to the friends, whether of our own or the new generation, who may assemble on the occasion of commemoration. There is work yet to be done which will task the best efforts of us all. For thyself, I need not say that the love and esteem of early boyhood have lost nothing by the test of time. And I think that letter, I wish I had the response to that from Garrison. But I think the better response was written more recently, or at least a very wonderful response, was written more recently by America's celebrated poet who happens to live in Newburyport, and that's Rena Espelette, a good friend, and absolutely a genius, I think, with the pen. I asked her to speak at the dedication of the plaque and all of the history for Garrison. And Rena, being Rena, decided to write a poem about it. And I'll let it stand on its own. Friends, let me take you to where no living eye can ever really go, where those who die reside, if they've been just. There Lincoln went, and others who, like him, suffered and spent their days on earth not in pursuit of gain, but striving hard to ease another's pain, pleading for the right when right seemed lost, without regard for risk or private cost. Bear with me, please. Poets travel where they will, knowing all the while they're standing still, and though their words may fly via voice or pen, they always bring you homeward once again. So come with me to overhear the talk of two old friends who reminisce and walk the quiet fields of heaven. Hear one say, "Greenleaf, it seems we've won. I hear today the young descendants of the once enslaved we spoke for then have had their names engraved in brass on Power's doors, in our proud state itself and elsewhere in the land, where hate and bigotry once threatened you and me, because we said and wrote they must go free." True, Lloyd, the poet replies, turning to that great journalist, the wise editor Garrison. And you were right, if passionate, to claim we had to fight to end injustice, since no peaceful means could do it. And I recollect the scenes that roused the mob against you, how you burned the Constitution, charging that it turned to mockery its praise of liberty by sanctioning the crime of slavery. How hard it was to quarrel with a friend one loved so long over how best to mend our broken country. For we too agreed it could not heal until the slaves were freed. I opposed the violence, as you did at first, but you were right to change. Both were accursed. War and justice. Who can say which one the good man must hate most? Then Garrison concedes. You had good reasons, even then I knew it, and I wrote, our countrymen are all mankind. Enemy blood you shed is always brother's blood, alive or dead. All men are kin, both north and south the same. But in my eyes there was the greatest shame, the ownership of human beings bought and sold like common goods. No, that was not to be accepted. There I took my stand. The stand you took is law throughout the land, says Whittier, for all men and women too, who had so long been told they must not do much that men did, enter professions, vote, profit from what they painted, thought, or wrote, hold public office. Where they've done much good, I must confess I was not sure they could, but you saw farther with a bolder glance. Garrison snorts, no present circumstance should be allowed to limit future hope. Picture the future bravely, give it scope. There's so much more to do, it breeds regret even in paradise, not to be yet among the living who are struggling still against so much that's cruelly wrong. The will to make things truly right lags far behind the fearful and self-regard of humankind. Now Whittier sighs and shakes his silvery head. I too could almost wish to be instead alive again. But now it's up to others to look after the world in which their brothers and sisters in all lands are to survive. I am told that back on earth, those still alive are still sent out to kill the nameless stranger or be killed by him. Who can say which danger troubles the soul more deeply? But they go beyond our hearing now. Their motions slow into that distance. As for us, we're here in their old city, but our present year, where I promise to leave you safe and sound, are not so safe, considering that round the planet we call home so much is left to be done for the poor and the bereft. The poet's flights of fancy are pure play. To honor best the men named here today, we must read what they wrote, learn what they knew, adopt their vision, promising to do whatever work we must to make it true. Thank you.
Well, that was something, and thank you very, very much, Bill. Cynthia, I guess at this time it's time for break, correct? And you want me to invite you up to say something? So I guess it's time to invite Cynthia to get up and say something. So welcome back to the podium, Cynthia Costello.
You know, there's no such thing as coincidence. Bill, you ought to get out of that sun and move to the next table. But it was one day, and it wasn't too far back, and I was driving along. This is a very hard event to get people excited about, coming out on a nice Sunday afternoon in this beauty, to hear about people who are dead and their thoughts and what they had to say. And as I was driving, I was thinking, how can we get some attention on this? And I thought, Bill Plante. His name came to me. I mean, I might have worked in the same place, knew his name all these years, but we never really talked. And well, isn't that a nice thank you? You should have worn your hat. But anyway, his name came to me, and we thought, too, you know, this would be wonderful. But I couldn't imagine how wonderful it was going to be, especially with the poems he chose. And he really sounded great doing the Negro parts, so he could really read those well and got right into it. But I think the power of Rena Espaillet's poem that she wrote about that we have a lot to do here on earth that are still here, and maybe they'll listen to some of the things we said and did and go forward with that. And he really brought that home. So I want to thank him for that. And we have another bit of excitement too. One of our Whittier Scholarship winners is here, two of them. 1, 2. Dawn, would you like to introduce them? Dawn is the chair of our scholarship committee. Maybe you can bring them up. I don't have their books, Dawn, because I forgot to bring them, but I'd like to have her introduce them. And we will get you the books. Yes, bring those handsome young men up. These are our Whittier Scholarship winners.
We looked over the scholarships, and there were some wonderful ones, but 2 stood out so strongly, and I'd like to introduce them to you. And the first one is Michael Zielinski. Michael was a remarkable student. Not only did he matriculate at Amesbury High, but he was also... I'm new at this. Not only did he matriculate at Amesbury High, but he also was a student at NECO, is that right? And did very, very well, and we wish him the very best. And the next handsome young man is Zachary Martin, and I have a kind of a sort of a, oh my goodness, I know this young man's parents. They went to school with my daughter, so I feel as though that we have a connection there. And you're going off to Westford? Oh boy. Well, we wish you both the very best of luck and continued success in your academic life and so forth. Thank you for coming.
And we give the winners not only a scholarship, but also the Whittier Bible, we call it, the big book by Roland Woodwell. And I have them at the home, and perhaps you could pick them up Tuesday morning, or I can call you, but they'll be inscribed, and they're for you too. And you'll have every bit about Whittier that was ever known in those Bibles. And thank you and your parents for coming. He left me. Oh, there he is. Okay, you know where the restrooms are. You know, everybody have a ticket for the free door prize. They're still available. Harriet's got the guest book out there, and so if you haven't signed it, please do. Philip Ray, I'd like to thank. He's up there videotaping, and he has put together a beautiful biography, DVD, of Whittier that has finally been completed by us with Eleanor's help in Haverhill and our help in Amesbury, and we have them on sale. And if you'd like one, they're in there. And we've got The Barefoot Boy and a list of other authors. The door prize, the raffle, is a whole set of Whittier books that's up there. Drinks are in the barn, and now it's, Charlie, what time is it for? What's it for time?
We're just on time if we go eat right now.
Oh, you want to tell them to go eat? Manja.